Hello, Oilers fans. Austin here with the day after discussion of the Oilers' 4-1 loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Right now, the Oilers are in a huge rut, and in my post-game fan reaction last night, you could probably tell how frustrated I am. And most of you who have been commenting, whether it was on the live stream or on my video last night, that frustration is also starting to boil over with the fan base, and I completely understand. I totally feel what you're feeling right now, and we're going to discuss things today. That's what the day after is all about. We can kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, grab some snacks, grab a drink, and go over a few things in a more, sound. We're more stable with our minds this morning. Try to get a good sleep last night, and instead of reacting from raw emotions, I've had a chance to take a look at some data. There's some very interesting data, by the way, especially with Connor McDavid before his suspension, after his suspension, that I do want to talk about. And then, of course, we will eventually discuss what's upcoming for Edmonton. I'll do a little preview for the Panthers game, which is tomorrow, and we'll see if the Oilers are going to be able to turn things around. But until then, make sure you smash the like button on today's video. Make sure to hit subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed, if you end up enjoying this more long-form podcast-style content as we continue to climb towards 5,000 subscribers. The growth on the channel has been amazing, so thank you all so much. Now, for those of you who are new to the day after episodes, or if you just want a refresher on how they work, I have a list of topics that I talk about. Every single topic will be time-stamped for you, so you don't have to watch this video in chronological order. You can skip around to whatever specific topic that you want, and then you can get the heck on out of here once you've heard what you want to hear. So let's kind of jump into things. On the screen, you'll see the title at the top. At the bottom, you'll see some stats, and on the right, you will see all of our topics. Now, on the bottom, they did lose 4-1 to Tampa. High danger, Corsi for percentage, 21.3% for Edmonton. They, I'm pretty sure the high danger chances last night were 15-4 in favor of the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Oilers just generated absolutely nothing all night. The Oilers are now 2-5-1 in their last 8 games, and the expected goals last night were 3.42 to 1.61 in all situations for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Edmonton was not even close to in this hockey game, and if it wasn't for Stuart Skinner, I would even make the argument that they would have been blown out even more. They would have had a score probably very similar, if not worse, than what happened in Washington and Philadelphia. So, our topics of discussion today. Tampa Bay Recap. We're kind of going to talk about some of the bright spots on the Oilers from that game, some of the weak spots, and just kind of analyze the game as a whole. I'll try and be brief with that one, though, because I don't want to talk about it too much more. If you did miss my fan reaction to it, I will leave a link to that in the description below. Kris Knoblauch. We have to talk about Kris Knoblauch. Again, last night in the fan reaction, I was pretty harsh towards Kris Knoblauch, but it is warranted. His coaching decisions right now are affecting the team in a very negative way, and we do need to discuss his deployment and his tactics because nothing's working right now. Next player we'll talk about is Evan Bouchard. Oh boy, there's always a lot of discourse surrounding Evan Bouchard, the offensively gifted D-man on the Oilers. There's a lot of chatter about getting him healthy scratched, a lot of chatter about him being benched for periods of games. And listen, I understand. I think in a perfect world, you do bench him for a little bit. However, the stats that I provide everyone today when we talk about him might make you rethink that statement because he makes the team better when he's on the ice, even when he has his brain farts. So we will talk about Bouch. We're also going to talk about Connor McDavid. Like I said in the intro to this video, there are a lot of really interesting stats with Connor McDavid that I do want to discuss, and I kind of want to speculate on what's going on here. I don't like to speculate about players' health or, their well-being, whatever the case is. That's not what I'm going to do, but I am going to try and present a few things that could be going on with Connor because it is not only affecting his game, it's affecting the rest of the team because he is the team captain right now. Next thing we'll talk about is where is the emotion on this team? Where is it? We haven't seen a lot of emotion on this team, and for a team that's in the gutter the way the Oilers are, I'd like to see a little bit more. The Oilers have not had a fighting major since January 7th against the Boston Bruins. I think that was Trent Frederick against Corey Perry. And I'm not saying you have to drop the gloves, but I would like to see some more emotion, so we'll talk about that. We'll also briefly discuss the trade deadline once again because we are getting closer to that deadline, and the more the Oilers lose, the bigger the holes look on this team. So we still have to kind of figure out exactly what the team should be looking for, what areas they need to patch up, and then hopefully they can get a deal or two done. And then, as I mentioned, we'll do a quick preview for the Florida Panthers. Nothing super in-depth because I will have a pregame report up tomorrow morning, but we will get us set up for that before tomorrow. With that out all the way, thank you for, if you're still here during this intro, I appreciate that. Let's recap the Tampa Bay Lightning game. Let's take a little bit of a recap here. The Oilers, they lose 4-1, and the game, for the most part, started pretty good for Edmonton, just like it did against Washington and kind of against Philly. The Oilers against Philly had a 2-1 lead in the first period. Against Washington, they had an early power play goal to go up 1-0. Last night, again, they get an early power play. They make it count. They're up 1-0. This team plays from behind a lot. They get behind a lot, and they're chasing games, and they were chasing a lot before the Four Nations break. But they've come out of the break and they've had a lead in every single game since the Four Nations break, and they have lost every single game. And to that, I don't know what to say. I don't know what that means. As a fan, we keep praying that this team can get a lead and then hold it. Now they're getting the leads and they can't hold them. Before they couldn't even get a lead. Now they're getting them and it doesn't even matter. The team is actually losing even worse than when they don't have the lead. Maybe there is something to them getting down 2-0 in the first and then having to get that fire lit under their butts so that they can push and try and generate chances. Because right now, it's just not good enough. Last night, though, the turning point in the Tampa game was the Brandon Hagel wraparound goal against Stuart Skinner. 30 seconds into period number 2, made it 2-1 for the Lightning, and they never looked back. And the Oilers never even were in the game after that. And a few things went wrong on that play. Number one, Stuart Skinner's movement. Stuart Skinner's lateral movement is so bad. And this is something that we talk about a lot on this channel. It's something that a lot of people who work in hockey, who are a lot smarter than me and know how to analyze goalies, they understand that Stuart Skinner's weak point is his lateral movement. His east-west movement is terrible. And he was not even close to getting his leg against the post to prevent the wraparound. And then the other comical error on that play was Evan Bouchard just watching it all happen. Evan Bouchard was in a perfect position to get his stick on the ice and at minimum try and deflect the wraparound attempt. He doesn't have to take the body. He doesn't have to make a big bone-crushing hit. Just get the stick in the lane. Block that puck from going in. But Evan Bouchard, just the way he's been playing lately, he's just kind of watching. He's not reacting. And it's unfortunate because Evan Bouchard is smarter than that. And the Oilers, they looked uncomfortable the rest of the game. Tampa completely dominated in all three zones of the ice. The Oilers looked like, by the third period, they looked like they just wanted to go home. And it's a very strange thing to see because the Edmonton Oilers notoriously are a team that you don't give up on. They're a team that never gives up. They're a team that gets down in a game, but you never feel like they're out of it. Since the Four Nations break, especially the Washington game and then the Tampa game last night, after Tampa made it 2-1, I think everyone collectively knew that Edmonton was losing the hockey game. I was doing a live stream on the YouTube channel and the chat even knew. And, not saying that everyone that tuned into the live stream was being negative, but that's the feeling in oil country right now, that the Oilers are down by a goal and they're not going to come back and win. Now, of course, I still try and hype them up. I tried to believe, but even I knew as well. Mentally, I knew after that Brandon Hagel goal, Edmonton was not coming back. They were not winning that hockey game, and it was super unfortunate. Because I love the live streams, and when the team is winning, the vibes are incredible. Not saying that the vibes were off last night, but I could feel that frustration seeping through my monitor, and it's sad. There was a few people that left the live stream because of the negativity, and I'm a channel that preaches positivity all the time, and I try not to get caught up in the negative stuff because usually it's not worth it, but in this situation, it's valid. Everything that you're feeling is valid. The frustration with this team is valid, and I think it's good to express that frustration. I think it's good and healthy, and I'm glad that I can provide a place for you to do that, as long as we're always respectful of each other, by the way. You can take your frustration out on me, but don't take it out on other members of the community. But, I'm providing that space for people to vent a little bit, and I don't mind that. I don't mind that because the team is in a bad spot right now in terms of their ability to find wins. They are going to be dropping in the standings very, very quickly here if they don't start winning. The LA Kings are winning. LA's going to leapfrog Edmonton within a couple weeks if Edmonton keeps playing like this. Maybe even next week, actually. The Oilers were in first place in the Pacific Division. They had a 2-point lead on Vegas with a game in hand at one point, and that is completely evaporated, and it sucks. I want this team to win a division title. I want them to not have to play LA in the first round again. And I want them to have an easier path to the Stanley Cup final. But now we're getting to the point where we're not even talking about the Stanley Cup finals. We're just talking about the playoffs. What are the chances the Oilers even have in the playoffs right now? because their record against top 10 teams is abysmal. Their record against top 2 division teams is abysmal. They give up too many goals. They don't score enough. They don't have depth. The only player that has been consistently going all season is Leon Draisaitl. And Leon Draisaitl must be going, wow, is this what Connor McDavid felt from 2017 to 2020? Like when he was the guy that was pulling the rope and everyone else was just trying to catch up and the Oilers weren't making the playoffs, but Connor McDavid was so far ahead of everyone in terms of scoring. Now, it's not to take anything away from Draisaitl. He was scoring his 50-goal seasons too, but even won a Hart in the year 2020, 19-20, that COVID-shortened season. But this is brutal. This is really brutal. This team on paper should be much better. And there's a lot of players that are not pulling their weight. But to continue the Tampa Bay recap here, I did want to take a look at natural stat trick and some of the advanced stats here. At 5-on-5, there were only 2 players on Edmonton who had an expected goals for percentage above 50%. Number 1 was Matt Savoy, 56.73%. Shots for when he was on the ice, well, they got outshot 7-5. However, they had one more scoring chance and what were the high danger chances? 3-2 for Tampa. So a couple chances must have been pretty good for Savoy's line because he still ended up in a positive expected goals for, despite getting a little bit outchanced there. But again, Savoy only played 13 minutes. I'm pretty sure he was only at about 8 minutes heading into the third or 9 minutes. So they did play him in the third period. So credit to Kris Knoblauch. They did give him a few more shifts in the third. Still didn't play him enough. Vasily Podkolzin was the other player that I thought was effective when he was on the ice. 54.50 expected goals for percentage. But look at Podkolzin's ice time. He only played 12:49. He played less than Savoy. Now, Podkolzin is not an offensive driver. You don't expect him to score the goals. I don't know, man. Leon Draisaitl was next, 49.73%, and then Evan Bouchard at 44.63%. McDavid, 43.77%. And then when you keep going down all the way at the bottom, now you can't see it because my head is in the way, 5.54 expected goals for percentage. Adam Henrique. When he was on the ice, the Oilers were outshot 12-3. And Adam Henrique has been abysmal. He has had a bad season. He has had a no good season, and I'm getting sick of him at the moment. Not to be harsh, because historically, Adam Henrique has been a fine player. But Father Time is very cruel to certain players, and I think Father Time is being especially cruel to Adam Henrique right now. The player that was marginally better than Henrique, 20% expected goals for percentage, was Connor Brown. Yes, Connor Brown. And guess what? Connor Brown played 14 minutes last night. If you take a look at the ice time allocation, Brett Kulak led the way once again. I think that's 2 games in a row where he has led the way in ice time. Only a 27 expected goals for percentage. Matthias Ekholm, 32% expected goals for percentage, played 22:01. That's just wild to me, man. You know, some of the players that I would expect to get more ice time are not getting it, but nobody is really deserving of ice time right now, if I'm going to be honest. Matthias Janmark gets back in the lineup, and he's terrible. Right? Victor Arvidsson was another -2. 23% expected goals for percentage. Like, there is nobody on this team right now that is going. Nobody's going. And that leads me into why are these players not going? And that leads me into Kris Knoblauch. So we're going to talk about Knoblauch. We're going to talk about his ice time allocation and his line juggling. So, I'm not a head coach, but I'm going to ask those who have coached even just like kids sports, whether it's hockey, soccer, baseball, whatever the case is. Any team sport. If you've been a coach or been around coaching, if you've talked to coaches, I want to bring this up. You have 2 weeks off in the middle of the season. 2 full weeks off in the middle of the season. What are you doing as a coach during those 2 weeks? You can let me know down in the comments. You can type it up, pause the video, type it up. I'd love to hear it. And I'm going to let you know what I'll be doing as a head coach. If I had 2 weeks off as a coach, you know what I would be doing? I would be spending every single day going over video from whatever happened during the season. I would be going over my analytics with my analytics department, if assuming my organization had one. If not, I would be using whatever public data was available. I would be going over tactics. You know, Is the current system that we're running good enough? Is the 1-2-2 forecheck good? Should we switch it to a 1-3-1? Is zone defense good? Should we switch it to a hybrid? Whatever the case is, I'm just bringing up examples. I would be spending those 2 weeks figuring out, okay, the games that we were losing, why were we losing? The games that we were winning, why were we winning? And then maximize your lineup to get the most out of them when they come back. The Oilers coaching staff and the Oilers organization had 2 weeks during the Four Nations to optimize their lineup. Figure out their line combinations that they want to roll with once the playoffs get going. Figure out their line combinations that they want to roll with heading into the trade deadline. Figure out their line combinations that they want to roll with when things aren't going great. You know, maybe the lines are optimized perfectly, but after 3 or 4 games, they just weren't working, so you got to switch 1 or 2 guys around. That's normal. I think that's completely normal. But what happened after the Four Nations has been insane to me. And I'm not a head coach, and I'm not trying to be mean to Kris Knoblauch. This is not me trying to blast him or anything. But this coaching staff and this organization has no idea what the heck they're doing with this lineup. They had 2 weeks to properly prepare a lineup and optimize things. And they look like they're just guessing every single night. They look like they have no idea what to do with their lineup. And it started with the Philly game. The amount of players that were switched around in that Philly game. They started Podkolzin with Draisaitl and Savoy at the start of the game. And I thought that was great. I was like, perfect. Let's get a look at the kid play next to Draisaitl. Savoy gets an assist. That's fantastic. Second or third shift of his career in the Oilers, and he gets an assist. Nice forecheck, gets it to Draisaitl. Boom. And then something happened. Something strange. Knoblauch put Podkolzin further down the lineup, and they switched the lines around. And for some reason, he switched everyone's lines around. Like Podkolzin, Draisaitl, and Savoy lasted, I think, 3 shifts before Knoblauch pulled out the blender. And he pulled out the blender when the team had a 2-1 lead. What? What are you doing? Not only did he pull out the line blender that early, but it clearly affected the way the team played the rest of the game. Philly came out in the second period, and they jumped on Edmonton. They tied it up, then they're up 3-2, but don't worry, Draisaitl's line, they go out there, they're cycling it around. Savoy was on the line, by the way. They're cycling it around, Draisaitl gets to echo, boom, you tie the game up, all right. Let's figure things out, folks. Oh, no, Philly goes down. They score another one, 4-3. And the team just looked completely out of sorts. It was bad, and the Oilers were never able to get themselves back in that game, and they lost. So then you're sitting there going, you know what? They play Washington the next day. I'm sure Knoblauch and the coaching staff, they're going to settle things down. They're going to play the right guys. They're going to go back to what's been working. They'll have Nuge with McDavid and Hyman. No worries. They'll put Podkolzin back with Draisaitl. This is going to be fine. Oh, no. God, no. No, we talked about that lineup going into the Washington game. Horrifying. Horrifying, those lineup combinations. And not only that, of course, it's not going to work right away. You need to give time. Like, if you want to change the lineups, fine. Whatever. But give these guys some time to find their game together. Give them some time to find chemistry. How did they spend 2 weeks away from the rink and not figure out how to optimize the lineup and their defensive group? Just makes no sense to me. And Kris Knoblauch, he usually has a pretty good pulse on this team, and I do consider him a very good head coach, but he's being exposed very, very hard right now. He is being exposed, and he's not quite on fraud watch yet. I don't think Kris Knoblauch is a fraud, but there's a microscope on him. There's a little flashlight on him, and that sun is beaming through the flashlight, and I haven't angled it to the point where it'll start burning a little, but I'm getting close. Because Kris Knoblauch's decisions right now are affecting this team, and they are a big reason why they are losing hockey games. One of the big things, too, pulling the goalie. You're down 3 goals to Washington and Ovechkin's on the ice, and you're pulling the goalie. What the hell, Knoblauch? That's just a freebie empty netter just to continue to decrease morale on the team. They're already down by 3. They're not coming back in the game. Maybe they're just trying to find 1 goal and feel good about themselves. But all you do is let Ovi score, get closer to Wayne Gretzky's record, and you make everyone feel even worse. That one didn't make sense. And then last night in Tampa, they're down 2-1 in the second, and he went to McDavid and Draisaitl pretty quickly. and they're not working well together either. But before we talk about Connor McDavid, we're going to transition. By the way, let me know your thoughts on Kris Knoblauch, his coaching decisions, his lineup decisions. Let me know what you think, because he's frustrating the crap out of me right now. It is not nearly good enough from this coaching staff, and they are going to be a first-round exit team if he keeps coaching like this, if he keeps juggling the lines like this. Like, this legitimately reminds me of Jay Woodcroft, and before that, Dave Tippett, and before that, Todd McClellan, and before that, it doesn't matter, name your head coach. This has been a thing in oil country for a long time. Kris Knoblauch's thing was stabilization when he came in. Yeah, he would tweak things here and there, but he usually ran who he liked to run and stuck with it a lot. That's not been the case, especially over the last month and a half. Basically, since Christmas, it's just been, he's just throwing darts on a dartboard and seeing what sticks. Brutal. Now let's talk about Evan Bouchard, because again, this is another player. There's always some intensity around a player like this. The offensively skilled defenseman in oil country notoriously is viewed pretty harshly by the fan base, viewed pretty harshly by the media, and for a few reasons. When people think of a defenseman, the definition of a D-man in hockey is defending, right? You're defending. And what is good defending? Is it using your stick? Is it using your body? Are you hitting guys? Are you fighting guys? Are you strong in front of the net? Are you winning puck battles along the boards? Are you beating pucks to races to the puck in the corner? And are you able to make a good outlet pass? Well, maybe defending is not even being in the defensive zone. Maybe you get the puck and you're so good at defending that your team has the puck and you're able to just be on offense the whole time. There's a lot of questions when it comes to what makes a good defenseman. And for the Edmonton Oilers, they have one. They have a very, very good D-man. In fact, I consider him elite in the NHL. I consider him a top 10 D-man in the entire league. And that's Evan Bouchard. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that, he's Norris caliber or anything right now, but he is an elite defenseman. And the fan base is very hard on him right now. Coming out of the break, that sentiment is valid. I think some of the decisions that Bouchard has been making with the puck since the Four Nations have been terrible. He's made a lot of big mistakes, a few plays where he can't clear the puck. The very first shift of the game last night against Tampa, oh my God, that giveaway that Skinner had to make a save on in the high slot like 20 seconds into the game. Don't like to see that. At least Skinner made a save on that one. But Evan Bouchard, there are advanced analytics that show that he is a top 10 D-man. Normal analytics show that he's a top 10 D-man. But I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to take my own personal bias about my love of this player, and I'm going to set it aside for a second. I'm going to listen to a lot of those who want him benched or healthy scratched. Let's say he does get healthy scratched. Let's say Paul Coffey is super annoyed at Evan Bouchard's game. It's clearly not good enough, especially lately. And Paul Coffey goes, all right, Evan, we got to sit you for a game. Maybe it's better for you mentally. Just sit up in the press box. You get to eat your popcorn. You get to relax and just watch the game from above. Write some notes down. We'll come back. I'll work with you, and then you'll be back out there next game. Let's pretend they healthy scratch Evan Bouchard. Just as an example. Who are you replacing with him that can do what Evan Bouchard does? Who are you who is going on that blue line? Who on the blue line, if Evan Bouchard is not in the lineup, can do what Bouchard does? Who's making that good outlet pass to a forward? Who's using their shot from the point to potentially score or cause chaos? Or, in some cases, hit Zach Hyman in the face and break his nose? Who is quarterbacking the power play? Now, I know Bouchard doesn't have a power play goal. However, he's still, for the most part, pretty good on it. So who's going to quarterback your power play for that one game? I know it's a one-game sample size, so don't worry about it. I'm just posing these questions because these are questions that need to be answered if you were to healthy scratch him. And who is replacing his production and his ice time? Who can go in there and make up that ice time? Is it John Klingberg? I don't know if I want John Klingberg playing 23 minutes a night. Is it Troy Stecher? I like Troy Stecher, but I don't want him playing 23 minutes. especially against the other team's best players, who Bouchard is usually going up against. Do you play Darnell Nurse 23 or 24 minutes? Historically, Nurse can do it. But again, you still have to elevate someone else in this lineup on the D-core to make up those minutes, make up the power play time. Even on the penalty kill, I think Bouchard has been getting some penalty kill time too. Where are you making up that shortfall? And not only that, now I'm ignoring advanced analytics here because a lot of you, you either don't agree with them or you don't like listening to them, and that's fine. So we're going to go pure stats. Evan Bouchard this season is second on the team in points. He's third on the team in points. Third overall in points on the entire roster. He has 45 points in 58 games. And raw data, he's second on the team in plus minus. Now, for a defenseman that gets yelled at a lot by this fan base, I don't know. I don't see where the rage is coming from. I can see it in short bursts. There are certain moments with Evan Bouchard where I'm absolutely agreeing, where I'm like, what is happening? Last night, being unable to defend that wraparound attempt by Hagel, that's something that pisses me off. But as a whole, Evan Bouchard, when he's on the ice, the only player on the Oilers with a better plus minus is Leon Draisaitl. The only players with more points than Evan Bouchard this season are Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And if you want to talk about goal scoring, Evan Bouchard has more goals than Adam Henrique, Connor Brown, Victor Arvidsson, Kasperi Kapanen, Vasily Podkolzin, and Matthias Janmark. And I'm not going to count Derek Ryan. He only played 33 games. So he has more goals than like 6 forwards on this team. I don't mind if you want to healthy scratch him. I really don't. Because in some instances, you have to send a message. And his play coming out of the Four Nations has not been nearly good enough. But where are you making up for what Bouchard can do? I think it is short-sighted to pick on him specifically. I think it's short-sighted to continue to attack him because he's on the ice a lot. And, but his giveaways. Well, yeah, the more you're on the ice, the more you're going to give the puck away. That's just how it works. His turnover rate is actually ranked top 10 in the league in terms of how much ice time he has compared to how many times he turns the puck over. It ranks top 10 in a good way. Evan Bouchard is a player that the Oilers are lucky to have. We are lucky as a fan base to witness his game, his play. It hasn't been good enough lately. I agree with that. But for those who want him traded, for those who want him healthy scratched, for those who just don't want him anywhere near the roster, for those who think he should just be sent to the minors, like I've seen all these comments, by the way. Like I'm not just pulling these out of my ass. This is stuff I see online all the time, even on my videos in the comment section. Yeah, if you're trading Bouchard, yeah, good luck replacing that. I'm talking about a one-game sample, who's replacing Bouchard's minutes. Imagine you trade him, depending on what the return is. You were going to lose that trade every single time. Unless you get someone that's better than Bouchard. And I'm sorry, but Vancouver's not going to trade you Hughes. Colorado's not going to trade you Makar. Dallas is not going to trade you Heiskanen. Like, it's just not going to happen. Evan Bouchard is a good D-man. In fact, he's a great D-man who is struggling just like the rest of this team right now. Can he be better? Absolutely. But we need to, as a fan base, we need to step back and really ask ourselves, is it worth being this mad at this one player? And 2, is it worth trying to trade this player? Or even healthy scratch him? I'll leave that question up to everyone else. You can all answer that in the comments. The next player we have to talk about is Connor McDavid, because he has been struggling. He has not played good hockey, like at all, over the last little while. And I wanted to look at his splits. There was someone in the live stream last night, and they asked me specifically, they're like, do you have stats on the Oilers before McDavid was suspended and after McDavid was suspended? And then I was also asked, do you have Connor McDavid's stats specifically for both? Now, I'm not going over points. A lot of this is advanced data, but let's just take a look. We're going to take a look at the team first, and then I'll take a look at Connor McDavid himself. So Connor McDavid, the team ranks the Oilers at 5-on-5 in the 9 games prior to Connor McDavid being suspended. The Oilers as a team were second in expected goals for, 59.90%. Fifth in goals for percentage, 58.33%. They were fourth in shots for percentage at 59.91%. They were fourth in high danger chances for 58.49%. And they had the 12th best team save percentage at 5-on-5, 922. And the whole team was rolling before that suspension. The whole team was playing very, very good hockey in January. Now, McDavid gets suspended. The Oilers play a couple games without him, 3 games specifically, and he comes back. The Oilers have played 9 games since Connor McDavid returned from injury here. And in those 9 games since he returned from suspension, the Oilers rank 20th in expected goals for percentage, 26th in actual goals for percentage, 12th in shots, 28th in high danger chances, and 24th in save percentage. Now, it's tough to get a gauge on why this is happening. A lot of these numbers since he was suspended also coincide with the fact that the team was sick. There was some injuries. This was like before the Four Nations where you could tell there was something going through the room. There was a flu bug. I get that. That will affect your numbers. That will affect your overall stats. But this is a pretty stark difference. And it's not on one player, right? This is the whole team. Could Connor McDavid's suspension have affected the team that much? Could Connor McDavid's suspension have affected him as a leader in that locker room that much? Because every statistical category is bottom 10, other than shots for percentage, which means I think they're just throwing muffins from everywhere a lot of the time. Like they're not getting those crazy good chances, and like the fact that they're positive in shots for makes me think that they're behind a lot, so they're just throwing whatever they can. A lot of point shots, a lot of shots that are just junk. And it would make sense because their expected goals for percentage is also bad, and they're 28th in high danger chances as well. That's pretty bad. In fact, that's not good at all. But let's take a look at Connor McDavid specifically from the forward group. The expected goals for percentage, Connor McDavid, you can't see it on the screen. I'm going to try and hold on. Let's just... You're going to see some Rainbow Six Siege here in a second. I do apologize. I'm just going to move that just so that everyone can kind of see this. Expected goals for percentage. Connor McDavid is 7th since returning from his suspension, right? But take a look at this. 13 goals against in 9 games since he returned from the suspension at 5-on-5. 13. His goals for percentage, 18.75%. Now, obviously, there's some stuff going on there. He's not getting saves because you want to see what his save percentage is. Actually, you know what? We'll do high danger chances first. High danger Corsi for 43.84%. He has been outchanced 41-32 in the high danger variety since he came back from his suspension. 41-32. That is not what we are accustomed to from him. In fact, the only players that are positive are Podkolzin. Oh, look, Jeff Skinner. Our boy Jeff Skinner, who keeps getting scratched for some reason. Nice one, Kris Knoblauch. But look at the on-ice save percentage here for McDavid. 835. Now, I'm not someone that likes to speculate on the relationship between certain players, teammates. That's not who I am. For all I know, Connor McDavid and Stuart Skinner are absolute best buds. They hang out all the time. They love each other, and all is honky-dory in oil country in that locker room. But I do find it interesting that since McDavid came back from that suspension, everything has been complete and utter shit for this team in every statistical category, including for McDavid himself. It just makes me wonder what the heck is going on here. Why is it like that? I don't know, man. I don't have a whole lot else to say. I just wanted to pose those numbers for everyone, see if you had any ideas what's going on. Is he hurt? Is he sick? Is he fed up? Does he not care about the regular season anymore? Is he only focused on the playoffs? Because you still have to win hockey games. Still have to play in the regular season. Like, you can't just roll over and give up. The Oilers at this point are going to be lucky, depending where they finish in the standings, if they keep losing, to even be in a good spot for the playoffs. The team has given themselves a good buffer. They can afford a skid in February right now. But they have to stop the bleeding, because if they do not stop the bleeding, not saying that we're going to witness one of the greatest regular season collapses of all time, but I'm also not saying that. That is a worry that I have. This is still a playoff team. But if we're mad and frustrated now, Imagine what would happen if the team didn't make the playoffs, if they continued to slide completely out of it. I don't even want to think about that. Because I'm too emotional. I'm too emotional to think about stuff like that. And when I think about stuff like that, I get mad, I get frustrated, and I get upset. And that brings me into where is the emotion on this team? The Oilers don't have a fighting major since early January when they were in Boston. They beat the Bruins that night 4-0. There was a combined shutout between Stu and Pickard. Pickard obviously didn't get a shot on himself, so it technically didn't count as a shutout for Stu, but it counted as like a team shutout. No fight since then. And the Oilers all season have not been a physical team. They don't hit at all. This is a team that just doesn't lay the body. They've just never been like that. And I don't think you need to lay the body. I think right now, though, because the Oilers are struggling at maintaining puck possession, maybe utilizing the body a little bit more would be helpful, right? I'm not saying they have to go out and chase hits, but they haven't been a physical team because, for the most part, they do have the puck more than their opponent. And when you have the puck, you're not hitting anyone. But I am definitely of the believer that this team lacks emotion. They lack that spark. They lack that that guy that can go out there and just kind of turn the switch around and get his team engaged. Corey Perry can be that guy, but I feel bad asking a 39-year-old Corey Perry to go out and try and fight someone just to try and get some energy in his on his bench. I don't like that. Now maybe Darnell Nurse could do it, but Darnell Nurse is someone that I would like to see not maybe break his hand and not get concussed again, because he's going to be important for a playoff run. And I'm not saying that you need to bring in a goon. Like, you don't need a Matt Rempe or someone. Like, that would be crazy. I would hate that. Don't want a player like that. But nobody on this team seems willing to throw a hit with purpose. There are body checks, but nobody is throwing a hit with purpose. Nobody's trying to run someone through the glass in a safe way. I'm not saying boredom. Don't hit them from behind. Don't cross-check them. Just a hard hit. Nobody does that. The only player I can think of that kind of gets close is Ty Emberson. And Ty Emberson gets hit a lot himself. I think Sportsnet was saying the other day that nobody is hit more in the NHL than Ty Emberson. He's willing to go into the corners. He's willing to take those hits. And I respect him for that. But nobody on this team is willing to throw that big hit. Nobody on this team wants to throw that hit, get the crowd engaged. They're on the road right now, I get it, but even at home, nobody's willing to do that. And why is that? Why is there no emotion on the team? This is something that we talked about earlier in the year too, when they were first struggling. I felt that they lacked an identity. You know, are they a skilled team? Are they a defensive team? Are they a physical team? What are they? And I'm starting to ask those questions again. What is this team? Because I can't tell what this team is. They want to be an offensive team, but with how passive they play, well, they're not. Okay, so maybe you're just a hard defensive team. Well, no, because a lot of the time they're too passive, and then they're too lackadaisical, and they're not stingy in the defensive zone, is what I'm saying. So, okay, so they're not a defensive team. Well, maybe you're a physical team. Well, no, they're bottom of the league in hits per game. And it's, quite frankly, not even that close. Okay, so you're not a physical team. Then what are you? What are the Edmonton Oilers? I'd like to see some more emotion. I want to see emotion. It doesn't have to be your captain. It doesn't have to be Draisaitl. But you know what would get that bench going? And you know what would get the fans going? Last night, Leon Draisaitl, he took a retaliatory cross-checking penalty against Cernak from Tampa. Cernak threw a pretty good slash on Draisaitl, and I don't blame Draisaitl for being mad. Cernak, a little two-hand on his stick, and it was a pretty high slash, too. Draisaitl had to get his hands up to protect himself, and that stick hitting his hand, it's got to hurt. We saw Pietrangelo do the lumberjack on Draisaitl a couple years ago in the playoffs, so listen, I get it. Getting slashed hurts, and it sucks. Leon Draisaitl, you could tell he was mad because he did retaliate. He threw a cross-check, and he got a penalty for it. Deserved penalty. But I wanted more emotion. I wanted to see more emotion. I wanted to see Leon Draisaitl just say, fuck it. Drop the gloves and just start throwing them. Whether Cernak gets his gloves off or not, I don't care. If Draisaitl's suspended for a game for it, I don't care. Show some emotion. If you're that pissed off and you're willing to take a retaliatory penalty against a guy who just pissed you off, you're losing 4-1. You're not going to win this game. You're about to lose your fourth straight. do it with purpose. Be emotional with purpose. And then when you skate by and you go through the tunnel after you've been kicked out of the game by the officials for dropping your gloves and beating the crap out of someone, you yell at everyone on the bench. You yell at them. Be like, I'm here. Where the hell are all of you? And you just go down the tunnel. That'll light a fire under the butts of some of these players. Maybe that's an old school mentality. Maybe you shouldn't do what I'm suggesting. But I even suggested in my post-game fan reaction last night too. Kris Knoblauch. Every time they show him behind the bench, depending what the goal is, a goal against, whatever, he just looks... He looks like he doesn't care. And I know that's wrong because he does care. But he looks like he doesn't. He's stone-faced all the time. That calm demeanor is good in a lot of situations. But your team needs a spark. And if I'm Kris Knoblauch, now I don't know what's going on in the intermission. Maybe Kris Knoblauch just goes ballistic when the cameras aren't on him. Maybe he's someone that goes in the locker room and does break a stick or two and screams at his guys and just like loses his mind. However, I don't get that impression. I don't think he's that guy. He's probably raised his voice like twice in the entire time I've seen him as head coach of the Oilers. For Kris Knoblauch, you know what I'd do? Like if I was a head coach, just in the middle of the game, you know, that second goal goes in on Skinner and Bouchard's defensive play was really bad on it too. I'd break a couple sticks. When Bouchard gets back to the bench, I'm like, hey, can I see your stick for a second? And I would smash that stick over my knee and I would chuck it onto the ice. And then the linesmen are going to come over and be like, yo, what the hell's going on? And I'd look right at Bouchard and be like, you clearly didn't want to use your stick to prevent a goal, so you don't need it. And you just break it in front of him. Oh boy. Everyone on the bench is probably going to go, oh crap, what the fuck is that? And then the adrenaline kicks in and everyone's going, okay, coach is mad. We got to start playing better. And for at least a few shifts, I would imagine that team is going to have a bit more jump to their game. They're going to be a little bit scared. But sometimes you need a little bit scared. Sometimes you need just a little bit. And maybe that's just the crazy Joker persona that's coming out lately in me. But that's what I think when it comes to the emotion. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. All right, we're going to move on to the trade deadline discussion. The team, the more they lose, the more I'm worried that they're going to make a panic trade. But it is very clear that this team lacks a lot of depth. They lack defensive depth. And their bottom six right now is just... It seems like the team is just hoping the bottom six doesn't get scored against and they can just get their top guys out to try and win a hockey game. And you can't do that. Not at this stage of the season and definitely not in the playoffs. You need players that can score goals and help your team win. So for the trade deadline in the last day after discussion, I was talking about my number one target. It's still goaltending to me. Goaltending is still the number one target. We're going to take a look at the goalies here. Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard after last night. 2.84 goals against for Stu, 2.69 goals against for Pickard, 898 save percentage for Stu, 896 save percentage for Pickard. This is not a cup caliber duo, in my opinion. This is not a cup caliber tandem. The Oilers need to get another goalie, an NHL caliber goalie that can play with Stuart Skinner. Or, I'm not saying that they should trade Skinner, but if there is a deal to be made for a bona fide number one starter, and they want Skinner in the deal, and the only way they'll do the deal is if you include Stuart Skinner, maybe you consider making that move. I think that would be a mistake, depending on what the return is, but it's clear that the goaltending right now is not good enough for Edmonton. And I've seen some media members lately be like, oh, okay, well, if you get another goalie, then you have to put Calvin Pickard on waivers, and they can't risk losing him on waivers. Yes, you can. You absolutely can risk waiving Calvin Pickard. Are you kidding me? Yeah, Pickard's been a great warrior for this team. He's been a good backup. He's a good guy. Journeyman, he's been around the league a long time. Didn't think he'd even be in the NHL a couple of years ago. He has redefined his career in Edmonton, and I think that's great. I love that for Calvin Pickard. But if you're improving your team to win a Stanley Cup, sometimes there's the odd man out, and you have to have a bit of a ruthless attitude when it comes to wanting to win. There are teams in the NHL that do not give a crap. In some aspects, maybe you have to look at the the locker room dynamic. But you can't just say, oh, well, I don't want to bring in a goalie because we might lose Calvin Pickard on waivers. That is a loser mentality to me, personally. I just don't agree with that at all. If you're bringing in another goalie to play with Stu Skinner, 1A, 1B, someone that can push Stu or outright take the job from Stu, if that means Calvin Pickard gets picked up on waivers from someone, who cares? Because at the end of the day, your team right now, the Edmonton Oilers, they are better, and that's what matters. And I would wish Calvin Pickard all the best. I'd be the first one to wish him all the best because I don't dislike him. But this team needs a goalie. Goaltending wasn't the reason why they lost last night, but it's the goals like that wraparound that make you scratch your head and piss people off. Kris Knoblauch last night was asked about that wraparound goal, about does it deflate your team, that sort of thing. And you could tell the way Kris Knoblauch answered that question. He hesitated so long before he was finding the words that he wanted. And I guarantee he wanted to say that goal deflated the team. That goal can't happen. And there are far too many times where the Oilers give up a goal, specifically their goalies give up a goal that deflates their entire team. 3 games in a row, there was a defining moment in the shift in momentum of the hockey game. The game against Philly, it was the 4-3 goal right after Edmonton had tied it. Philly goes down, they make it 4-3, and you could tell right then and there, everyone on the ice, everyone on the bench, they were not coming back. You could just feel it. You could just tell that they were not going to come back. They were tired of losing their leads, losing the tie game. They weren't coming back. They stopped trying. The stats show that they stopped trying. The game against Washington, they're up 1-0. All right, now it's 1-1. You take a bad penalty at the end of the period, and then it was Washington's 2-1 goal. That muffin from the point that beat Calvin Pickard 5-hole. And you could, again, see absolutely everyone on the ice, everyone on the bench. The heads are heads are going down. The body language. I'm not a professional body language reader, but you could tell that deflated the team. And they were never in that game against Washington after that. And then against Tampa, I didn't think they played very poorly in the first period. Tampa had more chances, but I thought it was an evenly played period, if not slight edge to Tampa. But you got out of that first period tied 1-1. That's terrific. On the road against a very good Tampa Bay Lightning team, I take that all day. First shift of the second period, that's the puck that goes in. That's the one that beats Stuart Skinner. And again, you could see it on everyone on the ice. You could see the body language. The goaltending is killing this team right now. Killing them. It's killing the morale of the team. It's killing their ability to gain and keep momentum. And it's killing their ability to win hockey games. So goaltending is still the number 1 priority. Number 2 priority is absolutely shoring up the defense. You need another top 4 guy. Maybe even someone that can push Evan Bouchard a little bit. Not saying that Evan Bouchard deserves to be bumped down, but if you can get someone that maybe could push Bouch a little bit, or even take a couple minutes of Bouch's ice time away every night, but they have to be good enough and effective enough for that to happen. And then number 3 priority for me is a scoring winger. Because the Oilers, outside of Draisaitl, they don't have a lot of scoring wingers. Like, they have Zach Hyman, but Zach Hyman has been playing with Connor McDavid for the last few games, and it shows. Zach Hyman is invisible when he's not with Connor McDavid. And that can't happen. If you want your hockey team to win, you need Zach Hyman to be able to produce with other guys. He can't just produce with Connor McDavid. But in saying that, if for some reason that is the only player that he can produce with, then Kris Knoblauch's got to put them back together here. Right? Like, I don't know what we're doing. Clearly, Zach Hyman is not a third-line player, and he's struggling on that third line. So get him going. And please, for the love of God, play Jeff Skinner. I cannot believe that we're still talking about this. Jeff Skinner has done absolutely everything that he's supposed to do to earn the trust of the coaching staff. And he is still the guy that gets shafted. If Jeff Skinner continues to be healthy scratched, my affection for Kris Knoblauch will disappear very, very quickly. And I'm not saying I'll jump on the fire Kris Knoblauch train, but I mentioned it earlier in the video. We're getting to that point where we're starting to question, is Kris Knoblauch? Does he understand what he's doing? Does he understand the decisions that he's making? And are they data-based decisions? Are they data-based? Are they stat-based? Are they evidence-based decisions? Or is he just doing what every other coach that has ever come to Edmonton does and does their own thing because the coach is never wrong and it's my gut feeling and that's what I have to do? Very interesting time in oil country when we come up to the trade deadline. Let me know your main trade deadline thoughts. I will have more trade deadline coverage the closer that we get to it, especially with specific player targets that I would like to talk about as well. That will be in a future video, so keep an eye out for that. All right, and before we end things off here, let's quickly preview the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers, who will be playing each other tomorrow night in Florida. The Panthers this season, they are 35-21-3. They're having a very good season. However, they may be without Matthew Tkachuk, and they actually might be without Matthew Tkachuk for quite a while here. Matthew Tkachuk's season sounds like it could be on the line. He got injured during the Four Nations. Still don't know what the issue is. But for the Florida Panthers as a team, as an organization, that's a huge blow if he is gone for an extended period of time. But lucky for Florida, they have depth. The Florida Panthers have depth. We talk about the Oilers' lack of depth. Florida has depth. Look at this. So Reinhart leads the team, 31 goals. Tkachuk with 22. Bennett, 19. Verhaeghe, 15. Barkov, 14. Lundell, 13. Rodriguez, 13. Boqvist, 12. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 forwards with more than 10 goals. 8 forwards with more than 10 goals. The Oilers have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forwards with more than 10 goals. And one of them is Corey Perry. And the other one is Jeff Skinner, who's healthy scratched more often than not now. So their depth is abysmal compared to the Florida Panthers. Taking a look at the goaltending situation for Florida, Sergei Bobrovsky, 265 goals against, 903 save percentage. Spencer Knight, 907 save percentage, 240 goals against average. Bobrovsky's had a bit of a down year, obviously, for his standards, but Florida is still very good on offense, so I don't think they really care. Gustav Forsling is a plus 30 on that back end. Beautiful. Just taking a look at both teams here, I do think the Florida Panthers have the edge. Florida's team save percentage this year is .895. I know that includes empty netters, but the Oilers are .893. Not much better there, folks. If you take a look at the actual stats here, team stats, power play, Oilers rank 7th on the power play. Florida ranks 10th. Penalty kill, Oilers rank 27th. That penalty kill is absolutely, truly, and utterly abysmal right now. Florida's isn't great, but they're a lot better than Edmonton's, 17th. Face-off percentage, the Oilers are 10th. Goals for per game, the Oilers are 7th. Florida is 6th. Goals against per game, the Oilers are now 13th. Florida is 12th. It's going to be a tough game. And I don't like Edmonton's chances, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. That's just the quick look ahead for the Oilers and Panthers. Let me know your thoughts on that as well in the comment section below. And that's it from me today in today's Day After discussion. I love these long-form podcast-style videos. I just want to thank you all for tuning in. If you're still watching to this point in the video, wow. I truly appreciate that. That's over 53 minutes of content. I hope you enjoyed. I hope whatever snack you had was fulfilling. I hope whatever drink you had was refreshing. And of course, we will see you tomorrow morning for the pregame report. I'll do a full breakdown, projected lines, the advanced stats, the regular stats, keys to the game, and score prediction, of course. And I will be live once again tomorrow night. I will do a live stream, little cup final rematch between the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers. I missed the first rematch between those two because of work. I'm not missing this one. The Oilers did lose 6-5 earlier this season to the Florida Panthers, and if they keep playing like they have been, the Oilers that is, well, instead of losing 6-5, they may lose 10-5. So for the Edmonton Oilers, there's time to right the ship, but this is a tough closeout to the road trip. They play Florida tomorrow, and then they play Carolina on Saturday. See if they can turn the ship around, folks. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, if you enjoyed today's video, today's podcast, make sure to hit that like button. And if you really liked it, make sure to subscribe to the channel as we climb towards 5,000 subs. We'll see you in the next one, Oil Country. Tell someone that you love them. And as always, fight like a kid, fight like Ben. Let's go, Oilers. We'll see you soon.